The rain fell in sheets, turning the Atlanta streets into rivers of neon and despair. Aaliyah Mitchell pressed her son closer to her chest, her worn jacket doing nothing to protect 8-month-old Aiden from the downpour. Her legs trembled, not from cold, but from 3 days without proper food, 2 nights sleeping in a bus shelter, and one final devastating realization. She had nowhere left to go. She didn't see the black Mercedes until it stopped beside her. Didn't register the power radiating from the man who stepped out, expensive suit darkening in the rain. She only saw his hand extending toward her, not with money, but with car keys. "Take it," Shin Kyung-jae said, his accented English carrying an authority that made even the storm seem to pause. "The car. It's yours now." Aaliyah stared at him, water streaming down her face, mixing with tears she didn't remember, starting to cry. This man, this stranger with eyes like tempered steel and a presence that screamed danger, was offering her salvation. She didn't know then that accepting those keys would change everything, that the man walking away from his own car would become the only person who truly saw her, that in 3 weeks she'd be standing in his penthouse, watching him cradle her son with a gentleness that contradicted everything his world represented. She didn't know that he would become her everything. Aaliyah had learned to make herself small, invisible. It was a skill she'd perfected over 26 years of life, first as the shy girl in the back of overcrowded classrooms, then as the woman trying to disappear in a relationship that slowly consumed her whole, and now as a homeless mother trying to navigate Atlanta's streets without drawing attention. The library on Peachtree Street had been her sanctuary for the past week. Free Wi-Fi, bathrooms where she could clean Aiden and change his diaper, and most importantly, air conditioning that provided relief from Georgia's brutal summer heat. She'd spent hours applying for jobs on the public computers, her son sleeping in the baby carrier strapped to her chest, his small weight the only thing keeping her grounded. "Ma'am, we're closing in 15 minutes. Aaliyah looked up at the librarian, a kind-faced woman in her 50s who'd pretended not to notice that Aaliyah had been coming in every day, spending 8 hours at a time, always with the same bag of belongings that screamed homeless to anyone paying attention. "Thank you," Aaliyah said softly, already closing the browser windows, erasing evidence of her desperate job search. 23 applications sent today, not a single callback in 5 days. She gathered her things with practiced efficiency. The diaper bag that held everything Aiden needed, the backpack containing her own sparse possessions, 2 changes of clothes, toiletries, the documents she'd grabbed when fleeing Marcus 3 weeks ago, her phone with its cracked screen and 12% battery life, the $23 in her wallet that had to last until what? She didn't know anymore. Outside, the sky had darkened to an ominous grey-green. Thunder rumbled in the distance, and Aaliyah's heart sank. The weather app on her phone had predicted scattered showers. This looked like something worse. Aiden stirred against her chest, making the small sounds that meant he'd wake soon, hungry and needing attention. She had 2 bottles of formula left, 2 diapers. After that, don't think about after that. Just focus on right now. The first drops fell as she reached the bus shelter 6 blocks from the library. Within minutes, the scattered showers became a deluge, rain falling so hard it seemed to bounce off the pavement. Aaliyah huddled in the corner of the shelter, using her body to shield Aiden from the wind-driven spray. 3 weeks ago, she'd been a certified nursing assistant working at Grady Memorial Hospital. She'd had an apartment in Vine City, nothing fancy, but it was hers. She'd had a life that, while not perfect, had been stable. Then Marcus had shown up at her door at 2 a.m., high on something that made his eyes wild and his hands brutal. The police had been called, by neighbors, not her, because she'd been too busy protecting Aiden to reach her phone. When they'd arrived, they'd found Marcus with outstanding warrants. They'd also found drugs in the apartment, drugs Aaliyah had known nothing about, drugs Marcus had hidden there without her knowledge. The arrest, the investigation, the eviction notice because the landlord had a zero-tolerance drug policy. Her supervisor at the hospital, sympathetic but firm. "We can't have employees under investigation for drug possession, Aaliyah. Not in a medical facility. It's policy." Everything gone in 3 weeks. Her job, her home, her carefully constructed stability, all of it vanished like smoke. The rain intensified. A man at the other end of the shelter spoke up. "This shelter's gonna flood. Happened last month during that big storm. There's a church about 2 miles east. Sometimes they let people stay overnight when weather's bad. 2 miles. In this storm. With an 8-month-old baby. But what choice did she have? Aaliyah stepped out into the storm. The rain was immediately overwhelming, soaking through her clothes within seconds. She held Aiden close, one hand supporting his head, trying to shield him from the worst of it. He began to cry. Not his hungry cry or his tired cry, but his frightened cry, the one that cut through her like a knife. "It's okay, baby," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the storm. "Mama's got you. It's okay." But it wasn't okay. Nothing was okay. And as she stumbled forward, her vision blurred by rain and tears, Aaliyah felt the last of her strength beginning to crumble. She'd been strong for so long. Strong through her relationship with Marcus, strong through his abuse, strong through his addiction, strong through the arrest, the eviction, the loss of everything. Strong for Aiden, always for Aiden. But everyone has a breaking point. Her foot caught on something and she stumbled, caught herself but barely. Aiden's cries intensified, and Aaliyah felt something inside her crack. Through the rain, she saw lights, a parking garage entrance. She stumbled toward it, her legs shaking, her lungs burning. Just a few more steps, just... A car pulled up beside her, black, expensive, so out of place in this neighborhood that for a moment, Aaliyah wondered if she was hallucinating. The driver's side door opened, and Shin Kyung-jae stepped into her life. The first thing Aaliyah noticed about him was his stillness. Despite the storm raging around them, despite the rain that immediately began soaking his obviously expensive suit, he moved with an unhurried grace that suggested he'd never been at the mercy of anything in his life. The second thing she noticed was his eyes, dark, intense and fixed on her with a focus that made her feel suddenly, startlingly visible. "You need help." It wasn't a question. His accent was slight but present, adding an unexpected formality to his direct words. Aaliyah's pride, battered as it was, sparked to life. "I'm fine." His gaze dropped to Aiden, whose cries had become desperate whimpers. Then back to her face, water streaming down her cheeks. One eyebrow rose slightly, a gesture that somehow conveyed both disbelief and a hint of amusement. "You're not fine," he said it simply, matter-of-factly. "How long have you been on the streets?" The question, its directness, its lack of judgment, caught her off guard. "That's none of your business." 3 days, 4? He stepped closer and Aaliyah instinctively stepped back. Something flickered in his expression. He stopped, raising his hands slightly. "I'm not going to hurt you. I don't know you." "No," he agreed. "You don't." He reached into his jacket pocket and Aaliyah tensed, but he only pulled out a set of car keys. "But you need help, and I can provide it. Take the car." Aaliyah stared at him. "What?" "The car." He gestured to the black Mercedes idling beside them. "Take it. Drive somewhere dry, feed your baby, sleep. You can't just give me your car. I'm not giving it to you permanently. I'm lending it to you until you're stable." His tone was businesslike. "My driver will contact you tomorrow to arrange—" "Why?" The question burst from her, sharp with suspicion and desperation. "Why would you do this? What do you want?" For the first time, something shifted in his expression. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "What do I want? I want to get to the airport before I miss my flight, but I can't do that while watching a woman and her baby stand in the rain with nowhere to go." He stepped forward again, slowly. "I don't want anything from you, except for you to take care of your son." He held out the keys. They dangled between them, chrome and possibility, an offering that Aaliyah's practical mind screamed couldn't be real. But Aiden whimpered against her chest, and her arms ached from holding him for hours, and she was so tired she could barely think straight. "I don't understand," she whispered. "You don't need to understand." He took her hand, his touch surprisingly gentle, and placed the keys in her palm, closing her fingers around them. "Just take it. There's a bag in the back seat with supplies. Emergency kit. There's also cash in the center console. Use it." Aaliyah looked down at the keys in her hand, then up at his face. "I don't even know your name." He paused, something flickering across his face too quickly for her to read. "Shin Kyung-jae. You can call me Kyung-jae." "Aaliyah. Aaliyah Mitchell. Aaliyah," he repeated, and the way he said her name, careful, deliberate, like he was committing it to memory, sent an unexpected warmth through her chest. "Take care of yourself and your son." He turned away, already on his phone, speaking rapid Korean. Aaliyah stood frozen for another moment before survival instincts kicked in. She moved to the car, fumbling with the door. The interior was immaculate, temperature-controlled, dry, safe. Aaliyah carefully unbuckled Aiden from the carrier, and his cries immediately began to subside as warmth surrounded him. She grabbed one of the blankets from the back seat, cashmere, she realized with a start, and wrapped him in it. In the rearview mirror, she could see Kyung-jae standing in the rain, phone to his ear. A black SUV pulled up moments later, and he climbed in without a backward glance. Gone. Just like that. Aliyah sat in the silence of the car, Aiden now sleeping against her shoulder, and tried to process what had just happened. The center console held exactly what he'd promised, $800 in crisp bills. There was also a business card, Lee Min-jun, executive assistant to Shin Kyung-jae. The bag in the back seat was an emergency kit, first aid supplies, bottled water, protein bars, a phone charger, even a prepaid cell phone. Real. This was all real. And for the first time in 3 weeks, Aliyah felt something other than despair. She felt hope. The rain continued through the night, but Aliyah was dry. She'd driven to a 24-hour Walmart parking lot and simply existed in safety for the first time since losing her apartment. She'd fed Aiden, changed him, even managed to clean herself up a bit. As dawn broke over Atlanta, Aliyah pulled out the business card. With shaking fingers, she dialed the number. Lee Min-jun speaking. Hi, my name is Aliyah Mitchell. Shin Kyung-jae told me to call this number. Ah, yes, Miss Mitchell. I've been expecting your call. How are you and your son this morning? The question, delivered with genuine concern, nearly undid her. We're okay. Dry, safe, excellent. Mr. Shin asked me to assist you in finding temporary housing and employment. If you're amenable, I'd like to arrange a meeting this morning to discuss options. Aliyah's grip tightened on the phone. I don't understand why he's doing this. A pause. Mr. Shin values helping those in difficult circumstances. He believes everyone deserves a chance to rebuild. If you're willing to accept his assistance, I assure you there are no ulterior motives. Sometimes you had to take a leap of faith. Okay, Aliyah said softly. Where should I meet you? The address led to a Buckhead office building that screamed wealth and power. Min-jun turned out to be impeccably dressed with kind eyes. He led her to a private conference room and immediately produced a bottle warmer. I took the liberty of preparing for your son. There are also supplies in the corner. Diapers, wipes, formula. Aliyah's eyes stung. Thank you. Now then, let's discuss your situation. Mr. Shin has authorized me to assist with several immediate needs, temporary housing, employment placement, and childcare arrangements. Why is he doing this? Min-jun's expression softened. May I speak candidly? Mr. Shin has considerable resources. He also has a strong sense of justice. When he sees someone struggling despite their best efforts, someone who's fallen victim to circumstances beyond their control, he believes in providing opportunity. Not charity, opportunity. He doesn't even know me. He knows enough. You were standing in the rain, protecting your child, refusing to give up. That tells him everything he needs to know. Min-jun leaned forward. He's offering you a hand up, Miss Mitchell, not a handout. The question is whether you're willing to accept it. Aliyah looked down at Aiden. What exactly is he offering? A studio apartment in a safe neighborhood, paid for 3 months up front. Assistance with job placement. I have connections with several hospitals, childcare arrangements, and this. He slid a document across the table. A contract stating explicitly that there are no expectations beyond your agreement to use this assistance to rebuild your life. Aliyah read through the document carefully. It was straightforward, with no hidden clauses. At the bottom was a space for her signature. Sometimes you had to take the leap. Where do I sign? The apartment was small, but to Aliyah it might as well have been a palace. It had walls, a door that locked, a bed, a place that was hers, even if only for 3 months. The first night, she'd sat on the floor and cried. By Friday, 1 week after Shin Kyung-jae had handed her his car keys, Aliyah had a job offer at Piedmont Atlanta Hospital and a spot secured for Aiden at Little Scholars Daycare. She hadn't seen Kyung-jae again. Min-jun handled everything with professional efficiency. The Mercedes sat in the apartment parking lot, and though Min-jun had offered to have it picked up, he'd suggested she keep it for transportation. Slowly, day by day, she began to believe it might last. Her first day of work arrived. The shift was intense, 12 hours of back-to-back patients, organized chaos. But it was also familiar, comfortable. Despite the exhaustion, Aliyah felt something she hadn't felt in months. Purpose. She was picking Aiden up from daycare, running late because her shift had gone over, when she saw the black SUV parked near the entrance, the same one that had picked up Kyung-jae that rainy night. When the back door opened and Shin Kyung-jae stepped out, Aliyah's breath caught. He looked different than she remembered, still impeccably dressed, this time in all black, but there was something in his posture that seemed less controlled, more human. Their eyes met across the parking lot. Then Kyung-jae crossed the distance between them in long, purposeful strides. Aliyah. Kyung-jae. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. I didn't expect to see you here. Minjun told me today was your first day. I wanted to make sure everything went well. It went well, she said. Thank you for everything. You don't need to thank me. He glanced toward the daycare center. Your son. How did he do? According to Mrs. Chen, he cried for 5 minutes, and then spent the rest of the day being the most charming baby she's ever met. Like his mother. The comment made her blink. I don't... What? But Kyung-jae was already moving past her toward the entrance. Come, we should get him before they close. Inside, Mrs. Chen greeted them with Aiden in her arms, but when the baby's gaze landed on Kyung-jae, something unexpected happened. Aiden smiled. Not his usual polite baby smile, but a genuine, delighted grin. He reached out his small hands toward Kyung-jae, making the grabbing motion that meant pick me up. Mrs. Chen laughed. Well, now seems like someone made a friend. Kyung-jae looked momentarily frozen. Then, carefully, almost reverently, he reached out and took Aiden from Mrs. Chen's arms. The baby settled against his chest immediately, small hands patting Kyung-jae's shirt, babbling happily. And Kyung-jae, this powerful man who moved through the world with such controlled authority, looked down at Aiden with an expression of such unguarded tenderness that Aliyah felt her heart skip. He's beautiful, Kyung-jae said quietly. How old? 8 months. His name is Aiden. Aiden, Kyung-jae said it carefully, testing the name. Then, in Korean, Annyeong Aiden. The baby giggled, clearly delighted. Do you have children? Aliyah asked. Kyung-jae didn't seem offended. No, I've never... He paused, his jaw tightening. My life isn't conducive to family. There was something in the way he said it, resigned acceptance, that made Aliyah wonder what his life actually entailed. Outside, Kyung-jae seemed reluctant to hand Aiden back. The baby had fallen asleep against his shoulder. In the golden hour light, they made an incongruous picture. This clearly powerful man holding an 8-month-old with infinite gentleness. I should take him, Aliyah said softly. I don't care about the shirt. But Kyung-jae transferred Aiden carefully, his hands lingering, steadying her. His fingers brushed her arm, and Aliyah felt that touch like an electric current. Their eyes met, held. Have you eaten? Kyung-jae asked abruptly. What? Dinner. Have you had dinner? I was going to grab something at home. Come with me. There's a Korean restaurant near here. Good food. You should eat properly after your first day. Every rational part of Aliyah's brain said this was a bad idea, but Aiden was still sleeping peacefully, and she was exhausted and hungry, and Kyung-jae was looking at her with an expression that was both commanding and almost hopeful. Okay, she heard herself say. Yes. The restaurant was small, tucked into a strip mall on Buford Highway. Not fancy, but clearly authentic. The staff looked shocked to see Kyung-jae walk in, slightly terrified even. The owner, an elderly Korean woman, rushed over immediately, bowing and speaking in rapid Korean. Kyung-jae responded gently but firmly. The woman's eyes kept darting to Aliyah and Aiden, confused and concerned. Finally, she nodded and led them to a private room in the back. Is everything okay? Aliyah asked as they settled in. Fine. She was just surprised to see me here with... He paused. Company. You don't usually bring dates to hole-in-the-wall Korean restaurants. The word date hung in the air. Kyung-jae's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in his eyes. I don't date. Oh. Aliyah wasn't sure why that disappointed her. Then what is this? Dinner with someone I'm concerned about. You worked 12 hours on your first day back. You need proper nutrition. It was practical, logical, completely devoid of romantic implication. So why did it feel intimate? The owner returned with banchan and took their orders. Kyung-jae ordered in Korean, occasionally glancing at Aliyah to gauge her preferences. How do you know what I want? She asked. I pay attention. He poured her water. You mentioned in the car, when you called Minjun, that you hadn't eaten properly in days. I assumed you'd appreciate something nourishing but not too heavy. He'd been listening, had remembered, had cared enough to remember. Why are you really doing all this? The question came out before she could stop it. There has to be more to it. Kyung-jae was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried a weight that hadn't been there earlier. When I was 15, I came to America with nothing. My mother had just died. My father was complicated. I spent 6 months living in a basement room in Flushing, working illegal jobs, barely surviving. He met her eyes. Someone helped me. Not because they wanted something, but because they believed I deserved a chance. That help changed my life. So you're paying it forward. Something like that. He smiled slightly, but it didn't reach his eyes. Although my methods are perhaps more direct than traditional charity. There was something in the way he said it, a hint of something darker. Aliyah remembered the way the restaurant owner had reacted, the fear mixed with respect. "What exactly do you do, Kyung-jae?" His smile faded. "Various business interests, import-export, property management, nothing that should concern you." It was a non-answer, and they both knew it. But before Aliyah could press further, their food arrived. They ate in comfortable silence, and she found herself relaxing. There was something about Kyung-jae's presence that felt safe, which was absurd, given that she knew almost nothing about him. "Tell me about Aiden's father," Kyung-jae said suddenly. The question hit like a physical blow. "That's a personal question." "Yes." He said it without apology. "You don't have to answer." But maybe she needed to say it out loud. "His name is Marcus Robinson. We met 3 years ago. He seemed charming at first. Turns out he was very good at hiding who he really was. The drugs, the violence, the manipulation." She set down her chopsticks. "I kept thinking he'd change. I finally left when I found out I was pregnant. He disappeared for 6 months, came back high, demanding money, threatening me, got himself arrested with drugs in my apartment, and now I'm here, starting over." The words had poured out, more than she'd intended to share. Kyung-jae reached across the table and covered her hand with his. The touch was gentle, but grounding. "Aiden's father is a fool. To have that beautiful child and throw it away, there's no redemption for that kind of stupidity. It's not. And you're stronger than you think. Leaving took courage. Surviving these past weeks took courage. Accepting help took courage. Don't diminish that." Aliyah looked up to find him watching her with that intense focus, and something in her chest cracked open. This man saw her in a way no one had in years, not as broken or damaged, but as strong, capable, worthy. "Thank you," she whispered. They sat like that, hands connected, until Aiden stirred. Aliyah reluctantly pulled away to tend to him, and the moment broke. But something had shifted between them. Kyung-jae insisted on following her home. His black SUV trailed the Mercedes through Atlanta's evening traffic, and Aliyah found herself oddly comforted by his presence. At her apartment complex, he parked nearby and got out. "I'll walk you up." "That's not necessary." "I know, but I'm going to." They climbed the stairs in silence, Aliyah hyper-aware of his proximity. At her door, she fumbled with her keys. "This is me. I can see that." There was a hint of amusement in his voice. "Aliyah." She looked up at him, and the intensity in his gaze stole her breath. "If you need anything at all, you call Min Jun, day or night. Understand?" "Yes. And if Marcus contacts you," his jaw tightened, "you tell me immediately." "Why would you care about... Just promise me." There was an edge of command in his tone that suggested he wasn't used to being questioned, but beneath it, genuine concern. "I promise." He nodded and turned to leave. Then he paused, looking back. That man, Marcus, he had something precious and destroyed it through his own weakness. "I'm not like him, Aliyah. When I claim something as mine, I protect it. Remember that." Before she could respond, he was gone. Aliyah stood in her doorway, Aiden sleeping against her shoulder, her heart pounding. When I claim something as mine, what did that mean? And why did the possessiveness in his words send a thrill through her instead of fear? The next 3 weeks fell into a rhythm. Aliyah worked, cared for Aiden, slowly rebuilt her life piece by piece. Early mornings at daycare, long shifts at the hospital, evenings with her son. Exhausting but fulfilling. She didn't see Kyung-jae again. Min Jun checked in regularly, always professional. The Mercedes remained parked outside, but she thought about Kyung-jae constantly. The way he'd looked at her in the restaurant, the possessiveness in his voice, the gentleness with which he'd held Aiden. Then her co-worker Jasmine pulled her aside during a break, her expression serious. "Girl, we need to talk." They'd become friendly over the past weeks, bonding over the chaos of the hospital. "What's wrong?" Aliyah asked. "That car you drive. The black Mercedes, where'd you get it?" "Someone lent it to me, why?" "And this someone, would his name happen to be Shin Kyung-jae?" Aliyah's stomach dropped. "How do you know that?" "Because my cousin works security at Club Lotus in Buckhead, and he told me that Kyung-jae's been asking questions about you." Jasmine leaned in closer. "Aliyah, do you know who that man is?" He helped me when I needed it. He runs some businesses. He runs the Korean Mafia in Atlanta." Jasmine said it flatly. "Not officially, of course. On paper, he owns legitimate businesses. But everyone in certain circles knows. He controls territory from here to Athens, has connections up and down the East Coast. He's powerful, dangerous, and not someone you want to be indebted to." The words hit like physical blows. Mafia. Dangerous. Everything clicking into place. The way the restaurant owner had reacted, the deference in Minjun's voice, the vague descriptions of his business interests. I don't believe you. I'm not asking you to believe me. I'm asking you to be careful. Look, maybe he genuinely wants to help you, but men like that don't do anything without a reason. And the fact that he's keeping tabs on you, that's not normal kindness. After her shift, Aaliyah sat in the Mercedes and tried to process what she'd learned. Korean Mafia. Criminal empire. She should be terrified, should pack up and disappear. But instead, she found herself pulling out her phone and calling Minjun's number. Miss Mitchell, good evening. Is everything all right? I need to speak with Kyung Jae. A pause. Mr. Shin is currently unavailable, but I can tell him I know about what he really does, and I need to talk to him tonight. Another pause. I'll see what I can arrange. 2 hours later, there was a knock on Aaliyah's door. When she opened it, Kyung Jae stood there in dark jeans and a black t-shirt, looking somehow more dangerous in casual clothes. His expression was neutral, but she could see tension in his shoulders. You wanted to talk. Come in. He entered, his gaze immediately scanning the apartment. When his eyes landed on Aiden playing on a blanket, something in his posture softened. What did you want to discuss? Are you in the Mafia? His expression didn't change. Yes. The casual confirmation made it worse. And you didn't think that was something I should know? Before I accepted your help, before I let you into my life, into my son's life, would you have accepted if you'd known? He moved further into the room. Would you have taken the car, the apartment, the job help if I'd introduced myself as the head of a criminal organization? No, because that would have been insane. Exactly, you needed help. I could provide it. My professional activities have nothing to do with you. They have everything to do with me now. I'm living in an apartment you're paying for, driving a car registered to you. The money came from legitimate business holdings. I own restaurants, property, import companies. Not everything I do is illegal, Aaliyah, but some of it is. Yes. Are you dangerous? Yes. The blunt honesty should have scared her. Instead, it grounded her. Have you ever killed anyone? His jaw tightened. Yes. Aaliyah absorbed that, struggling to reconcile the man who'd held her son so gently with someone capable of taking a life. Why did you help me? I told you the real reason, Kyung Jae. Why me? Why that night? For the first time, his control cracked. Something flickered across his face. Because when I saw you standing in that rain, holding your son, refusing to give up despite having nothing left, you reminded me of my mother. His voice dropped. She died trying to protect me. Died in the rain, alone, because no one would help her. And I've spent 20 years building power so I'd never feel that helpless again. So when I see someone who needs help, who deserves help, I give it. That's the real reason. The raw honesty cut through Aaliyah's anger. She saw past the Mafia boss to the boy who'd lost his mother. The boy who'd been alone and scared, just like she'd been. I'm sorry about your mother. He shook his head. I don't want your pity. I want your understanding. What I do, yes, some of it is illegal, but I also protect people. Koreans who come here with nothing, who get exploited, who need someone with power on their side. I'm not a good man, Aaliyah, but I'm not entirely bad either. That's quite a rationalization. It's the truth. He moved closer. And here's another truth. I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since that night. You and Aiden. I tell myself it's just concern, but that's a lie. What are you saying? I'm saying that I want you to stay away from me, because getting involved with me puts you at risk. My enemies, my business associates, none of it is safe for you or your son. The smart thing would be for me to maintain distance. That sounds logical. It does. His hand came up, fingers ghosting along her jaw. But I've never been good at doing what's logical when it comes to things I want. The touch sent electricity through her. Aaliyah should step back, should remember all the reasons why this was terrible. Instead, she leaned into his touch. This is crazy, she whispered. Yes, I should tell you to leave. Yes, I should want nothing to do with you. You should. His thumb brushed her cheek. But do you? The answer was undeniable. She'd felt it that first night, had felt it growing during their dinner, during every moment thinking about him. No, she admitted. I don't want you to leave. Something fierce and possessive flashed in his eyes. Aaliyah! A sharp cry interrupted them. Aiden had knocked over his toy and started to fuss. The moment broke and Kyung Jae stepped back as Aaliyah moved to comfort her son. She picked Aiden up, soothing him, and when she turned back, Kyung Jae was watching them with an expression of such longing, it made her chest ache. You should go, she said softly. even though every part of her protested. "We both need to think about this." "You're right." But he didn't move. 1 week. Give me 1 week to handle some business, to ensure that if we do this, if we start something, I can protect you both. Can you do that? And then what? Then I'm going to claim you as mine, Aaliyah Mitchell, properly, completely. And once I do that, nothing and no one will ever hurt you or your son again. That's a promise. The possessiveness should have alarmed her. Instead, it sent warmth flooding through her chest. 1 week, she agreed. He crossed to her in 2 strides, pressed a kiss to her forehead, gentle, reverent, and then was gone. Aaliyah stood holding Aiden, her heart racing. She'd just agreed to get involved with a Mafia boss. It was insane, reckless, probably the worst decision she'd ever made. But as she looked down at Aiden, who'd stopped crying and was smiling, Aaliyah couldn't bring herself to regret it. For the first time in her life, someone saw her, really saw her, and was willing to burn down the world to keep her safe. The week passed with agonizing slowness. Aaliyah went through her routine, but her mind was always elsewhere, thinking about Kyung-jae, wondering what he was doing. "I'm going to claim you as mine." On the 5th day, Marcus called. She almost didn't answer. The number was blocked. "Aaliyah," his voice was slurred. "We need to talk." "We have nothing to talk about, Marcus. That's my son you have. I got rights." Rage flooded through her. "You lost your rights when you got arrested with drugs in my apartment. When you got me evicted, got me fired, ruined my life. I can make things difficult for you. Take you to court, get custody. With your record, try it. You always were a bitch. Thought you were better than me, didn't you? Well, look at you now. Don't ever call this number again." She hung up, hands shaking. Aiden, sensing her distress, began to cry. Aaliyah picked him up, trying to breathe through the panic. Marcus couldn't take Aiden. He had no legal standing, but the threat alone terrified her. She pulled out her phone and sent a text to Kyung-jae's number. Marcus called, made threats about custody. The response came within seconds. "Address?" She sent it, then sat holding Aiden, waiting. 20 minutes later, there was a knock. When she opened the door, Kyung-jae stood there, and the cold fury in his eyes made her take a step back. "Tell me exactly what he said." She did, word for word, watching his expression grow darker. When she finished, he pulled out his phone and made a call, speaking in rapid Korean. "What are you doing?" she asked when he hung up. "Handling it." He stepped into the apartment, closed the door. "Marcus Robinson won't be bothering you again." "Kyung-jae, I don't want you to—" "To what? Protect you?" He moved closer. "That man threatened you. Threatened Aiden. You're mine to protect now, Aaliyah. That means I deal with threats. Permanently. I don't want you to kill him." His expression softened slightly. "I'm not going to kill him. But he's going to understand very clearly that you and Aiden are under my protection." "How?" "You don't need to know the details. Just trust that it's handled." Trust? Did she trust this man, this criminal, this killer, to protect her? "Promise me you won't kill him." "I promise." "Promise me you won't have him killed." Kyung-jae's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "I promise. He'll be handled through legal channels. He has outstanding warrants in 3 states, information that will be anonymously provided to authorities, along with evidence of his drug dealing that will ensure a lengthy sentence." "You can do that?" "I can do a lot of things, Aaliyah." He reached out, cupping her face. "I told you, when I claim something as mine, I protect it. You and Aiden are mine now, whether you've accepted it yet or not." She should protest the possessiveness, should assert her independence, but she didn't want to. "The week isn't up yet," she whispered. "I know." His thumb brushed her cheek. "But after tonight, I can't wait anymore. I need to know you're safe, that you're mine, that no one will ever hurt you again." Kyung-jae. He kissed her, not gently, not tentatively, but with fierce possession that stole her breath. His hands were in her hair, on her back, pulling her closer, and Aaliyah melted into him. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against hers. "Say it," he demanded. "Say you're mine. This is crazy. Say it. We barely know each other. I know everything that matters. Say it, Aaliyah." She looked into his eyes and saw the same desperation she felt, the same need for belonging. "I'm yours," she whispered. The smile that broke across his face was fierce and triumphant. "And I'm yours, from now until forever. Do you understand?" "Yes?" He kissed her again, softer but no less possessive. And Aaliyah, for the first time in her life, felt completely safe. The next morning, Aaliyah woke to find Kyung-jae gone but Min-jun at her door with coffee, breakfast, and a new phone. Mr. Shin wanted to ensure you had a secure line of communication, he explained. He also wanted me to inform you that Marcus Robinson has been arrested. He's facing charges in multiple jurisdictions that will keep him incarcerated for a minimum of 5 years. That fast? Mr. Shin is very efficient when properly motivated. Min-jun's lips twitched. He also asked me to give you this. He handed her an envelope. Inside was a restraining order against Marcus, already filed and approved, along with documentation beginning the process to have his parental rights terminated. There was also a note, "You're safe now, both of you." KJ tears pricked her eyes. Having someone step in and actually fix things instead of just offering empty promises felt surreal. Over the next 2 weeks, that became the new normal. Kyung-jae was a constant presence, though never intrusive. He showed up at daycare to help with pickup, sat with her during dinner, played with Aiden with a gentleness that belied his dangerous reputation. He never stayed the night. Not until you're ready. Respecting boundaries she hadn't articulated, but his claim on her was obvious to everyone. "Girl, you're dating the Korean Mafia boss," Jasmine said during a break. "How is that your life now?" "I don't know," Aaliyah admitted. "But he makes me feel safe, protected. Like I matter." "You do matter, you always did." "I know, but with him I believe it." Kyung-jae integrated seamlessly. He taught Aiden Korean words, the baby babbling appa one evening and sending Kyung-jae into such obvious emotional chaos that Aaliyah had to look away to hide her tears. He brought groceries, fixed things in the apartment, hired a cleaner. He also brought her into his world, carefully. Dinners at Korean restaurants where people showed deference that made her uncomfortable. Introductions to his inner circle. All of them treated Aaliyah with respect that bordered on reverence, clearly understanding that she was untouchable. But it wasn't all smooth. There were moments when Kyung-jae's work intruded, phone calls in Korean that had him leaving abruptly, tension that spoke of violence she didn't want to contemplate. 3 weeks after Marcus's arrest, Aaliyah woke in the middle of the night to find Kyung-jae on her couch. He had a key now, but he'd never used it like this. "What's wrong?" She moved to him, noting the blood on his shirt. "Territorial dispute. It's handled." He looked at her, exhaustion in his eyes. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have come here like this. I just needed to see that you were safe." "I am safe. Because of you. I'm not a good man, Aaliyah." His voice was raw. "What I did tonight, I don't need to know." She took his hand. "I just need to know that you'll always come back, that you'll always protect us. Always." He pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. "You and Aiden, you're everything. The only good thing in my world." They sat like that for a long time, and Aaliyah understood that this was her reality now. A man who lived in violence, but came to her for peace. "Stay tonight," she whispered. "Please." He looked at her, searching for certainty. "Are you sure?" "Yes." He stood, lifted her in his arms, and carried her to the bedroom. What followed was tender and intense, acclaiming in every sense. And when Aaliyah woke the next morning, wrapped in his arms, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Home. 6 weeks after that rainy night, Aaliyah stood in Kyung-jae's penthouse in Buckhead, the place he'd finally brought her to. It was stunning, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, minimalist decor, space that felt luxurious, but somehow empty. "It's beautiful," she said, Aiden on her hip. "It's cold." Kyung-jae came up behind her, wrapping his arms around both of them. "I want you here, both of you. Make it a home instead of just a place I sleep. You're asking us to move in. I'm asking you to stay. Permanently." His expression was serious. "I know it's fast, but I don't want to be without you, Aaliyah. Not for a single day. Move in with me. Let me take care of you both properly." Aiden chose that moment to reach for Kyung-jae, babbling appa again, and the look of pure love on Kyung-jae's face made the decision for her. Yes. The move happened quickly. Kyung-jae had movers pack up her apartment, had Aiden's room outfitted with everything a baby could need, had a security system installed. He was simultaneously overprotective and endlessly patient. Jasmine came to visit, her eyes wide. "Damn, girl, you really went from homeless to penthouse in 2 months." "It's surreal," Aaliyah admitted. They sat on the balcony while Kyung-jae played with Aiden inside. "Sometimes I still can't believe this is real." "Are you happy?" "Yes." No hesitation. "Terrified sometimes because his world is dangerous, but happy. He sees me, Jas. Really sees me. And he loves Aiden like his own. Then that's what matters." As weeks turned into months, Aaliyah realized she wasn't losing herself. She was finding herself. Kyung-jae encouraged her to take online classes, to pursue the nursing degree she'd always wanted. He hired a nanny so she could study without stress. He celebrated every victory like it was monumental, and in return, she gave him something he'd never had: a family, a reason to come home, a soft place to land. It wasn't perfect. There were arguments about his refusal to share work details, about security that sometimes felt suffocating, about how people treated her differently, but there was also laughter. Aiden's first steps, taken toward Kyung-jae, quiet evenings cooking together, Kyung-jae teaching her to make kimchi, while she taught him her grandmother's mac and cheese. Mornings waking up in his arms, safe and loved. 4 months after moving in, Aliyah woke early to find the space beside her empty. She found Kyung-jae on the balcony, coffee in hand, watching the sunrise. "Can't sleep," she asked, joining him. "Just thinking. About that night, the rain. How close I came to just driving past you. But you didn't." "No. And that decision changed my life." He turned to face her fully. "I love you, Aliyah Mitchell. You and Aiden. You're my family. My home. The only thing that matters. I love you too. Even though you're bossy and overprotective and sometimes scary. Especially because I'm those things." His smile was genuine. "Someone has to keep you safe. And someone has to keep you human. That's you. That's always been you." From inside, they heard Aiden wake with a happy babble. Kyung-jae immediately moved toward the sound, and Aliyah followed, watching as he scooped up her son, their son, with infinite care. "Annyeong, little one. Did you sleep well?" Aiden responded with babble that included Appa, and what might have been Mama reaching for both of them. They came together, the three of them, a unit forged from desperation and rain and unexpected grace. Later, as Aliyah cooked breakfast while Kyung-jae kept Aiden entertained, she thought about the woman who'd stood in the rain 6 months ago. Broken, desperate, certain she'd reached her end. That woman couldn't have imagined this. "What are you thinking?" Kyung-jae asked, coming up behind her, Aiden still in his arms. "That I'm grateful. For the rain. For you stopping. For everything that brought us here. The rain brought you to me," he said softly. "But you saved me, Aliyah. Not the other way around." She turned in his arms, kissed him while Aiden giggled between them. "Then I guess we saved each other." "Yes." His smile was fierce, possessive, entirely his. "And I'm never letting you go. You're mine, remember? And you're mine. Always." Time had a way of softening even the sharpest edges. The months that followed Aliyah's move into Kyung-jae's penthouse weren't without challenges. There were nights when he came home tense and silent, his world bleeding into theirs in ways she couldn't always understand. There were moments when the weight of his reputation made simple things complicated, when people treated her differently because of who she belonged to. But there were more moments of joy. Aiden's first birthday party, celebrated with both Korean and soul food traditions, a fusion that made Kyung-jae's inner circle smile and Aliyah's co-workers marvel. Her acceptance into the nursing program at Georgia State. The quiet Sunday mornings when they'd wake to find Aiden had crawled into their bed, nestling between them like he belonged there. Because he did. Kyung-jae had changed too. The cold, controlled man who'd first stepped out of his Mercedes in the rain had transformed into someone warmer, more open. He laughed more, smiled more, let his guard down in ways his associates found shocking. "You've made him soft," Min-jun said one afternoon, but his tone was approving. "In a good way. He's happier." Aliyah had noticed it too, the way Kyung-jae's eyes lit up when he came home and heard Aiden's laughter. The way he'd started keeping family photos on his desk at work, something unheard of before. The way he'd begun delegating more responsibilities, carving out time to be present for the life they were building. It was a Tuesday evening, 9 months after that fateful rainy night when everything shifted again. Aliyah was studying at the dining table, Aiden playing nearby with his blocks, when Kyung-jae came home earlier than expected. He looked nervous, an expression so foreign on his face that Aliyah immediately closed her textbook. "Is everything okay?" "Everything is fine," but his voice carried an edge of tension. "Can we talk?" Her heart skipped. Those words, in her experience, never preceded good news. "Of course." Kyung-jae picked up Aiden, holding him like he needed the comfort of the toddler's presence, then sat across from her. For a moment, he just looked at her, his expression intense and searching. "I've been thinking about something," he said finally. "About us. About what we've built together." "Okay." "When I gave you my car keys that night, I wasn't thinking about the future. I was thinking about that moment, about helping someone who needed it. But somewhere along the way you became my future, Aliyah. You and Aiden. You became everything. Aaliyah's throat tightened. You became everything to us, too. I know my world isn't easy. I know there are things about what I do that you don't agree with that scare you sometimes, but I need you to understand something. He shifted Aiden in his arms, the toddler content to babble and play with his collar. I would burn it all down for you. The empire, the power, all of it. If you asked me to walk away, I would. I'm not asking you to. I know, but I want you to know that you could. That you have that power over me. His jaw tightened. You're the only person in the world who does. The vulnerability in his admission made her chest ache. This man, who commanded respect through fear and power, was laying himself completely bare. I don't want you to burn anything down, Aaliyah said softly. I just want you to come home every night safe to us. I can do that. He stood, Aiden still in his arms, and moved around the table to kneel beside her chair. But I want to make sure you come home too. Officially, permanently. Her breath caught as he shifted Aiden to one arm and reached into his pocket with the other, pulling out a small velvet box. Marry me, Aaliyah. The words were half command, half plea. Let me give you my name. Let me make Aiden officially mine. Let me spend the rest of my life making sure you never have to stand in the rain alone again. He opened the box to reveal a ring that stole her breath, a perfect diamond, surrounded by smaller stones that caught the light and threw rainbows across the table. Kyung-jae, I know it's fast by normal standards. I know we've only been together for 9 months, but I've never been more certain of anything in my life. His free hand found hers, gripping tight. You're mine, Aaliyah. You've been mine since that night. I just want to make it official. Aiden, as if sensing the importance of the moment, reached out and patted both their faces, babbling happily. It broke the tension, made them both laugh through the tears that had started streaming down Aaliyah's cheeks. Yes, she whispered. Then louder. Yes, yes, I'll marry you. The smile that broke across Kyung-jae's face was pure joy. He stood, pulling her up with him, and kissed her with Aiden squeezed between them, the toddler giggling at being part of their embrace. When they broke apart, Kyung-jae slid the ring onto her finger with shaking hands. It fit perfectly, of course it did. He'd probably measured her finger while she slept, the overprotective, thorough man that he was. There's one more thing, he said, his tone shifting to something more serious. I've started the adoption process for Aiden. I want to be his father legally, not just in practice. I know his biological father's rights are being terminated, and I want to make sure that when that happens, I can step in immediately. Aaliyah had known this was coming. They'd discussed it before. But hearing him say it so definitively, seeing the determination in his eyes made it real. He already calls you Appa, and I want that to be official. I want him to have my name. I want both of you to have my name. His grip on her hand tightened. I want the world to know you're my family. We are your family. Then let's make it official. Marry me soon, Aaliyah. I don't want to wait. She laughed through her tears. How soon? Tomorrow, if I could arrange it. He was only half joking. But I know you'll want something proper, something beautiful. So you tell me, how long do you need to plan the wedding you want? Aaliyah thought about it. Thought about the big wedding she'd once imagined as a girl, with hundreds of guests and elaborate decorations. Then she thought about what actually mattered. This man, this child, this family they'd built from nothing. Small, she said. Just close friends and family. I don't need elaborate. I just need us. Whatever you want, it's yours. He kissed her forehead. But I have one request. What's that? I want to include some Korean traditions. Nothing overwhelming, but I want Aiden to grow up knowing both sides of his heritage. Yours and mine. The casual way he said his heritage, including himself in Aiden's identity so completely, made Aaliyah's heart swell. I'd like that. And I'd like to include some of my traditions too. Maybe we can blend them. A fusion wedding. Kyung-jae smiled. Like everything else in our life. They set the date for 3 months later. Enough time to plan something meaningful, but not so long that Kyung-jae's impatience drove them both crazy. The wedding preparations became a joyful chaos of blending cultures and traditions. Kyung-jae's family in Korea, distant cousins and aunts he'd barely spoken to in years, were shocked to hear about his engagement. Even more shocked when they learned his fiancée was a black American woman with a child. But Kyung-jae handled it with his usual directness. She's the woman I'm going to marry. If you can't be happy for me, then don't come. Most of them came. Curiosity, if nothing else, drew them to Atlanta. Aaliyah's own family situation was simpler. Her mother had passed years ago, her father was absent, but she had aunts and cousins scattered across Georgia who were thrilled to see her so happy. They embraced Kyung-jae warily at first, this powerful, intense Korean man who'd swooped into Aaliyah's life, but won them over by the way he treated her and Aiden. "That man looks at you like you hung the moon," her Aunt Regina said during a fitting for Aaliyah's dress, "and he treats that baby like gold. That's all that matters." The wedding itself was small, but perfect, held in a private garden that Kyung-jae had rented for the day, decorated with white flowers and subtle touches of both Korean and African-American cultural elements. Aaliyah wore a dress that honored both traditions, a white gown for the ceremony, then a change into a hanbok-inspired fusion dress for the reception. Aiden served as ring-bearer, toddling down the aisle in a tiny suit that matched Kyung-jae's, carrying a pillow with the rings. He made it halfway before getting distracted by a butterfly, and the entire audience laughed as Kyung-jae stepped forward to guide him the rest of the way. The ceremony blended traditions seamlessly. They exchanged vows in both English and Korean, with translations provided for guests. They shared both a wedding cake and teok, Korean rice cakes. The music was a mix of R&B and K-pop, soul food alongside Korean dishes. But the most powerful moment came during Kyung-jae's vows. "When I saw you standing in the rain that night," he said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes, "I thought I was just helping someone in need. I didn't know I was finding the other half of my soul. You've given me something I never thought I'd have, a home, a family, a reason to be better than I was. I promise to protect you and Aiden with everything I have. I promise to be the man you deserve, the father he deserves. I promise that you'll never stand in the rain alone again." There wasn't a dry eye in the garden. Aaliyah's own vows were simpler, but no less powerful. "You saw me when I was invisible. You gave me hope when I had none left. You've shown me what it means to be truly loved, not despite my struggles, but including them. You've given my son a father and me a partner. I promise to be your home, your peace, your reason to keep coming back. I promise to love you through everything, the good, the dangerous, and the complicated, forever." When the officiant pronounced them married, Kyung-jae kissed her like they were the only two people in the world. Aiden, standing between them, demanded to be picked up, and they broke apart laughing to include him in their embrace. The reception was joyful chaos. Kyung-jae's associates mingled awkwardly but respectfully with Aaliyah's family and co-workers. Min-jun gave a toast that had everyone laughing and crying. Jasmine made a speech about how far Aaliyah had come, her voice thick with emotion. But the moment that stayed with Aaliyah came late in the evening. She found Kyung-jae standing alone on the garden's edge, Aiden asleep in his arms looking out at the celebration. "What are you thinking?" she asked, slipping her hand into his. "That I'm the luckiest man alive." He pulled her close, careful not to wake Aiden. "That I almost drove past you that night. That everything could have been so different. But it wasn't. You stopped. You saved us." "You saved me," he corrected. "You gave me a reason to be more than what I was." They stood like that, watching their two worlds celebrate together, and Aaliyah thought about how far they'd come. From that desperate moment in the rain to this, a family, a marriage, a future full of possibility. Years had passed since that rain-soaked night that changed everything. The memory remained vivid, the desperation, the fear, the moment Shin Kyung-jae stepped out of his Mercedes and offered her salvation. But it felt like a different lifetime now, separated from their present by walls of love and security. The penthouse had transformed from a cold bachelor's space into a home. Pictures lined the walls, Aiden's first day of kindergarten, Aaliyah's nursing school graduation, family trips to Seoul, Kyung-jae teaching Aiden taekwondo, quiet moments of domestic bliss. The minimalist decor had given way to comfortable chaos, toys strategically placed in every room, textbooks and coloring books sharing space, evidence of lives fully lived and intertwined. Aiden was 6 now, fluent in both English and Korean, confident and joyful in a way that only children who are deeply loved can be. He'd been officially adopted by Kyung-jae 3 years ago, a ceremony that had left his father, because that's what Kyung-jae was, in every way that mattered, quietly weeping with joy. Aaliyah had her nursing degree now, working part-time at the hospital while pursuing a master's program. Kyung-jae had insisted she didn't need to work, but understood when she'd explained that she needed it for herself, needed to prove that she could build her own success, not just live in his shadow. His world had changed too. He was still powerful, still connected to the criminal underworld, but he'd gradually shifted his focus toward legitimate businesses. "I want Aiden to be proud of what I do," he'd told her. "I want to build something he can inherit without shame." It was a work in progress, but the fact that he was trying, that he was willing to change for their family, meant everything. On a Sunday morning, 5 years after the rainy night that started it all, Aaliyah woke to find Kyung-jae's side of the bed empty. She found him on the balcony, coffee in hand, watching Aidan play in the living room through the glass doors. "You're up early," she said, wrapping her arms around him from behind. "Couldn't sleep. Too much on my mind. Good thoughts or bad thoughts?" "Good thoughts." He turned in her arms, pulling her close. "I was thinking about that night. The rain. How different things could have been. We've come a long way since then. We have." He cupped her face, his touch achingly familiar after all this time. "You've given me everything, Aaliyah. A son, a home, a reason to be better. I never knew I could be this happy. Neither did I was so lost that night, so convinced everything was over. But it wasn't. It was just beginning." Inside, they heard Aidan call out, "Appa, Mama, come look what I built." They exchanged smiles and went inside to admire the elaborate castle their son had constructed from blocks, praising his work with the enthusiasm only parents can muster. Aidan beamed, then launched into a story about the castle's inhabitants, a blend of Korean folklore and his own wild imagination. Later, as they prepared breakfast together, Kyung-jae making kimchi jjigae while Aaliyah worked on pancakes, she watched him move around the kitchen with Aidan on his hip, patient and loving, and marveled at how far they'd come. "I love you," she said suddenly. Kyung-jae looked up, surprised by the declaration. Then his expression